ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ushma Tyagi and I shall be your host today. In season 3 of the Strategic Digital Dialogues webinar series, in association with Automation Anywhere, a global leader in intelligent automation and RPA solutions, we have been speaking with experts for a better appreciation of what goes into successful RPA adoption. For the fourth and final episode today, our webinar theme is Digital Assistants of Tomorrow. That is, how personal digital assistants can help organizations scale automation across the workforce by making it easy for any employee to participate in the automation of day-to-day business tasks through business-friendly user interfaces. Over the next 1 hour or so, you can expect to hear IT leaders and automation experts share their insights and experiences from deploying personal digital assistants similar to RE, short for Automation Anywhere Robotic Interface. Now, without further ado, I hand over to Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, Strategic Solutions, to take the floor, introduce our guest speakers, delve into the nuances of real-life case studies, and shine a spotlight on the many business benefits that accrue from employing personal digital assistants to improve work experience and workforce productivity.
Hello and welcome to Season 3 and Episode 4 of the Digital Dialogues. I am Arjun Vishwanathan, your host of the day. I'm going to be in conversation with eminent industry leaders on a very fascinating facet of technology that promises to perhaps revamp the very concepts of work. And join me in conversation today, I have none other than extremely senior folks and veterans from the industry and IT practitioners. Please join me in welcoming Gaurav Kataria, Chief Digital and Information Officer at Sai Life Sciences. Gaurav, welcome. Delighted.
Thank you very much, Arjun. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And Unmesh Deshpande, Chief Technology Officer at Kingsway Hospital. Unmesh, welcome. We are privileged to have you with us, sir.
Thanks, Arjun. It's my pleasure as well.
Unmesh, with your permission, I'm going to make full use of these 35 minutes that we have today. Because I'm going to come to you with a very important concept and a question really that begs all the importance that it perhaps deserves, which is the way we have looked at the concepts of work traditionally have perhaps changed at levels that we perhaps don't even realize, which is fairly unprecedented. And the concepts, or what were erstwhile, the theoretical concepts of the future of work by itself, seem to now be manifesting themselves. And therefore, organizations need to kind of buck up and catch up with the rate of evolution of technology. Now, in all of this, when you look at the concepts of work by itself, where do you see the evolution of digital assistants playing a very important role?
That's a nice question, though intricate one, and possibly a debatable one. If we were having this session in person rather than virtual,
Indeed.
things would have been much exciting.
Oh, yes.
Having said that, digital automation has become the crux of all the processes across industry, not only healthcare or not only hospitals or not only pharma, but everywhere. There has to be a serious and deep introspection about your own processes. I mean, own processes, how to request a material from store, that is not a process. That's a practice now. The processes, what I intend referring to is the processes that are being driven within your systems. For example, if you're a HANA customer and there are some processes defined over there, could there be further enhanced by putting some digital robots or something like that inside and further automated it?
Interesting.
Automation will always bring predictability in the system. The results will be predictable, so trustable, and your organization will again stand on a higher robust platform.
Indeed.
So adding these digital widgets or applications or APIs connecting to some governance model will result into a deeper penetration of automation into digital processes which are governing your organization.
Very interesting point that you've made, Unmesh, because Gaurav, I'm going to bring that to you and one particular point that Unmesh spoke about. And therefore I'm coming to you to seek your views. In the realm of automation,
Uh-huh.
how, as an IT practitioner, a senior CIO, do you kind of make the choice or the selection between practice and process on what to automate?
So that's a very interesting point, Arjun, because my view is that while robotic process automation, which is sort of a buzzword in the industry today, is I think a great step forward in making organizations go digital. But at the same time, organizations and CIOs and leaders have to take a very very thorough look to first see if a process is broken. Can you fix the process? Can you re-engineer the process itself before applying an automation to it? Because what will happen is if you apply an automation to an already broken process, then at the end of the day, maybe 6 months down the line, you will start seeing the whole system crumbling all over again.
You'll be
So it is
automating.
best to really actually take a step back, see where it is really applicable, right? There could be some legacy industries, legacy processes which are still paper based and which are regulatory and which you cannot really avoid that paper input. In those cases, applying an automation using a combination of RPA and artificial intelligence or vision learning or image processing is a great combination to have. But slowly, I believe that even those industries will evolve and those regulators will also start adopting and recognizing digital signatures, digital formats. And that is a time where you also have to take a call that you might have started an RPA process, right? But then when do you need to stop it, have a relook, and see that, can you systematically, fix the process itself? So that's a great point. So it has to be a fair balance between the process, and the application of technology to yield the maximum result.
Thanks, Gaurav. Because Unmesh, I'm going to come to you now with an equally important question, and this just keeps getting interesting. We spoke about the concepts of work, the dimensions and the paradigms of the concepts of work, the future of work, having kind of shifted to the largest degree, and therefore, with the workforce now at the center of all evolution, of all transformation, if it were to be called as such, do you not feel that the ability of a digital interface or a digital assistant, as it were to be called, will only kind of work towards enhancing the workforce, towards contributing to the future of the enterprise of tomorrow, really?
Yeah, it would contribute, but at the same time, it's the way you adopt and become adept to the digitization and automation of the things. Uh, at a grassroots level, you have to define whether you are going to automate to bring in intelligence in the system, or you are going to use your intelligence to bring automation into the system.
Very nicely put.
So you have to really give a serious thought over there. Whatever may be the answer, then according to me, you need to follow a proper process to bring in automation, to bring all the legacy stuff, as rightly said by Gaurav, that you are automating a broken process. So if you churn junk, it is going to create junk. And
Absolutely.
6 months down the line, you have got a bigger job on your hand. Similarly, when you want to approach any automation using digital robots or any such tools or technology available, you need to follow that you have to develop first RPAs, robotic process automation. You have to think what I can automate, what I should automate, what I can automate, but I should not automate. So all these questions have to be asked. Once they are asked and answered properly with a clear thought in mind, then take those parameters into a granular form to address it. Once you have addressed it, let the processes create a data sets which will be a sort of a machine learning. So your process should be intuitive to learn from the various data that is getting collected. So there is a process which is getting automated, a lot of inputs are going in. that inputs in form of data or whatever is going in has to be structured to bring in intelligence in that. So you have come to a second stage of automation. Clubbing with these two, you can bring in artificial intelligence into the system.
Indeed.
So systems become more supportive than depending on human intervention. All such processes, if put in a proper sequence, I think will be a meaningful investment of time and energy.
Interesting, because Gaurav, I'm not
Great
going to come
point.
to you then. Therefore, well, all my questions today seem to be, in my mind at least, or my perception, very important. This entire conundrum, or the this conversation, the narrative about productivity, efficiencies, and innovation, and increasingly as physical spaces seem to have kind of become more decomposed than ever before, and the workforce is pretty much living wherever, working from wherever, or anywhere really. Do you perhaps not feel, and I'd like to seek your views, that digital assistance, a digital interface, a robotic interface, which can mime you for to start with, but then increasingly take on a lot of the mundane tasks, not leave you as part of the workforce with much more time to be more productive, to drive more efficiencies, and most, last but not the least, collaborate and innovate more?
So that's a great question, Arjun. So, definitely the bots or the robotic process automation or the assistants can definitely help improve productivity, right? Across different industries, we've seen one of the common processes which really helps, where this can be applied really well is, for example, HR. So when an employee wants to travel, it typically takes an employee, 5 to 10 minutes to find what the latest travel policy is, what that individual's eligibility is. But a simple bot can really help, save those 5 to 10 minutes for every employee. And that, if you multiply into a large organization or even a small organization, can lead to significant savings. So what the organizations need to do is look at those specific pieces, right, and which are generally overlooked, and then look at applying a bot into those specific areas, which can then free up a lot of time for an employee to start putting their mind onto more revenue generating, bottom line impacting kind of activities, rather than really looking at things which should be really available. I know every employee at the end of the month spends a lot of time trying to figure out, how much pay, salary got credited, etc. All of that can be done by bot. So there are multiple such examples where productivity can definitely be enhanced, by the bots, and by implementing an RPA process. But again, it's a fine line between where process efficiency can be driven versus where a bot can take over. I think it is a sequential process. You improve the process itself and then apply to bot to really make it more efficient and free up the time for the employees.
Interesting, because Umesh, if that were to be the case, and I think broadly over the last 15 odd minutes, I've heard a fair summary of your views, more or less endorsing, or more or less acknowledging the fact that digital assistants in the future are going to be the norm. In your case, therefore, two fundamental questions. I'm going to come to Gaurav again with the same question after you address this. Is number one, what mindshift changes have to be brought in within the enterprise by itself? Number one. And the second, really, and you could take them in any order, is what are the challenges that enterprises may tend to face when approaching something that looks as beautiful as it does, but as well, at the end of the day, fairly a complex journey.
Uh, Now, I would like to answer the first part first. Let's go by the sequence. Mindset change is a paradigm shift that a traditional organization will have to go through.
True.
They should not have a feeling that team IT is trying to incorporate some changes into system which will automate regular process. And for example, any financial approval, if there are some rules for a financial approval, and if 10 points can be checked within the ERP whether it fits the bill or not, if it fits and funds are available and it is available in budget, all condition met, it should get auto approved. There could be a stakeholder within the organization saying that how did it get approved without I signing it? So that I is should not be there. It should be we. So it has to be organization first attitude to embrace any change as far as automation of systems is concerned. If that is there, then the consulting organization, maybe there are so many consulting organization who will help you to automate your process by using bot services or internal designing of RPAs or whatever. There's so many technologies and platforms available. It's available as a service also. I mean, you can just connect your process with a service available over the cloud. There are companies and vendors doing that.
The
So
platform
there has to
approach.
be, yeah, there has to be openness in accepting this. It has to be accepted wholeheartedly without any caveats. These caveats, rather than helping any growth, they actually deter the morale of the people who are trying to bring in this growth. Take
Interesting.
the full ownership. Along with ownership, the responsibility has to be taken. If both are taken, then there is a immediate effective leadership happening to bring in this change. So this is a sort of a formula which we are practicing over here. And since we are a reasonably new organization as far as IT is concerned, we've just finished 1 year of 1.5 year of IT rollout, and people have started accepting and acknowledging it within our organization. So if we can do it as a new entity into healthcare market, and Kingsway as a brand, it's really well respected in a very short span of time. The kind
Indeed.
of services and things what we do. All this is possible because of our leadership and their open hand given to us to really automate things. So that kind of a mandate is required. This mandate brings in a lot of confidence into the team who is really designing all these things. So
Very interesting, Unmesh. With your permission, I want to take that to Gaurav. Gaurav, therefore, in your guidance, with such vast experience that you come with, and Unmesh kind of articulated equally well. One is, of course, I'd like you to let this wonderful audience that's tuning into us today kind of let them know uh, how they should even start imagining and orchestrating the journey. And the second question that Gaurav, I'd like you to answer, and then, of course, I'll take that to Unmesh, is how would you measure the real world benefits of making short work of processing data from multiple sources and the impact that it'll have on enhancing business metrics such as customer satisfaction, sales throughputs? I mean, the options and the possibilities are mind boggling. Gaurav, what is your view?
Right. See, automation is not new, right? If you even if you go to the discrete manufacturing industry, you go to the auto industry, or you go to banking, or any of the mature industries, automation has always been there. It was earlier robots themselves doing automation, right? Now it's sort of come in and converted from hardware, or devices doing automation into a software doing automation, right? At the end of the day. So automation is not new, and I think everybody understands the benefits of automation. The difference now is rather than applying automation to a large assembly line or to a mechanical process, it's been broken down and simplified to a fact that it can be applied to a very small, discrete software process or a human process, right? It could be accounting, like Umesh was mentioning, he gave the example of finance, HR, the example that I gave earlier. It could be, in medical transcription, automation is being applied today, right? So in multiple of those areas where the automation can be applied. So A, it's not new. So I think people do understand that this can yield and bring in a lot of benefits. That's one. Two is when you really start on the journey of automation, I think what is really critical is to list down, the several, 100, 200 use cases that you might find, and then start off with a combination of, do a sort of a 2 by 2 matrix and then try and see which are the ones. Don't pick up the ones which are the toughest and the highest impact, but pick up the ones which are the simpler ones to achieve, but with the highest impact, right? Go into that grid so that you can sort of really start seeing quick wins. And once you're able to do that, and those probably will be far and few because the process application itself is a journey. And like you were mentioning earlier, it takes considerable amount of effort to really get it right. But at the end of the day, if you're able to identify those 4 5 use cases, build a consensus within the organization, then you can really scale it up. Now, getting to the point of metric, my belief has always been start with the end in mind. So when you're actually identifying the use cases, some might be, good, fancy looking use cases, but the impact is really low. But then start with really figuring out, what is the business metric, what is the efficiency that it will bring in. It could save 5 minutes per employee per day, or per month. That's good enough to start off with. But then really figure out what your threshold is. Really figure out if it's an employee saving, and like you said, customer perspective, right? If you see most of the real estate companies today, or a lot of the organizations today, everybody has a chatbot. So you don't need a human interface even at 11 o'clock at night at the banking sites. I'm still getting answers. Some of those bots are good, intelligent. They use artificial intelligence, NLP at the back to really give you meaningful answers. Some of those at least take your queries in and pass them on to a sales executive who comes back to you. Either ways, the point is business is still running. There is a customer whose questions are being answered, right? So there is that interface which is getting created. Customer relationships are becoming stronger, right? So there are definitely multiple benefits if the bots, or the automation, let me generalize it, is applied at the right manner and at the right interface from a customer perspective, and then from an employee perspective as well. So both sides get benefited.
Interesting, because Unmesh, same question, really, and coming from the healthcare provider space as you do, uh, how would you kind of articulate the few or perhaps numerous benefits of how robotic interfaces, and therefore intelligent robotic interfaces, if we may want to call it that, could help kind of revamp and transform and reimagine the entire healthcare value journey for a patient from the time that he or she were to walk in to the time of exit, and of course, pharmacy and everything else. What's your view?
Now, what we are trying to do is, uh, like in manufacturing and other industry, they have got a software called ERP, right? So ERP could be on many platform, SAP or any other else. For hospital, rather healthcare kind of setup, what we call it HMIS, Hospital Management Information System. HMIS is a much bigger stuff than a ERP for a manufacturing industry. It has entire FINAC module, financial accounting module, then patient care, clinical data, clinical analysis, then so I mean it's a huge one, right? So there are areas which could be automated and which we have already started doing it. For example, you imagine there is a COVID patient admitted who was very critical, who has been isolated from his family and no visitors allowed, obviously, for 14 or 20 days. So the anxiety that he is going through is tremendous. Now a doctor comes and checks him and he says, "Hey, you're going home today." Look at the impatience that the guy would have or the patient would have. And that discharge takes 6 hours. Those 6 hours are much more than what these 21 days are.
Oh, yes, I've been through it, not with COVID, of course, but yeah, I can completely imagine.
So we value that and we are trying to automate to bring in discharge stat as short as possible. Because whenever a patient is discharged, you need to look at all the financial transactions, the bills, the medication, what he has been given, if there is any ward return of medicine which are unconsumed, or if after discharge he has to carry a bag, a kit home with a home medication, or some automated patho tests are to be ordered for him at a specific date. So this is all mathematically driven.
Indeed.
If it can be mathematically driven, it can be automated. So respective orders can be generated on a day before to keep everything ready.
Everything readied.
That
Very
will enhance the UX. So user experience enhancement is the key in any hospitality, and hospital is no option um, thing to
Mhm.
that.
No, very interesting. Gaurav, gentlemen, I do have a view on the clock, and I do know that you've got fixed schedules, but we still got about 4 or 5 minutes. Well, I'm going to try and sneak in a couple of interesting questions. Gaurav, I come to you. Therefore, with the broad agreement that digital interfaces that are intelligent, that are actually observing and are able to process, store, and therefore work with the data to create more intelligence is the way forward. Uh, when you kind of look at the solutions that are available today, what would be your wish list in terms of the innovation that it could bring, given your wide expanse of future gazing that you'd be able to do? What should come next?
So I think like I think I alluded towards it earlier, right? The automation solutions really need to bring in that element of bringing in data consolidation from multiple layers, really have the ability to process the data and really apply artificial intelligence on top of it, right? The next level, which is already happening in the manufacturing industry, but it can be brought in here as well. Can these automations then have an easy linkage? It is available today. You need to do a lot of jugglery to make it happen, is to really convert it into a physical action at some place or the other, right? So for example, we were trying to do this automation. If somebody comes in and is high temperature, typical COVID, you're trying to do temperature screening, then your turnstile should not open up, right? But both of those are two discrete processes. Employee can still have an access card and the turnstile will still open, right? Whereas my digital screening is still telling me that the employee has a high temperature. Getting both of these to start working and collaborating with each other was a big pain, right? So how do you really simplify and make sure that the interfaces available from an automation solutions perspective both talk to each other, right? Because they really don't, very seamlessly today between the software side. It can trigger off a software action into my HRMS to say that the employee, recorded a high temperature, but can it really physically stop my turnstile? Not always, right? So I'm just sort of giving you an example, but there are more complex things that happen on a manufacturing shop floor, which can create a lot of, problems if not really controlled well. The automation is not really controlled well. So some of those, you know, can be, really, brought to start interfacing better. That's one. And second, like I said, bring in a lot more artificial intelligence. We're already seeing it happening, the use of NLP and artificial intelligence, but also have the ability to not only answer questions, but also analyze data. At the end of the day, give me slices and dices of data like we do on Tableau or Power BI dashboards, right? Everybody wants their own slice and dice. Can that happen through voice operation, for example? So voice is going to be the next interface rather than typing. So how can that be done through voice? So voice recognition going to the next level.
Standing, and my real last question, because I do have a view on the clock. Unmesh, I come to you first. You've got 30 seconds, perhaps, or 45 seconds. The employee of the future, intuitive screens, bots working in the background, robotic interfaces coupled with artificial intelligence doing so much more than we traditionally have ever thought so. What is your one big bet or one big prediction for the future of work, as it were?
Slowly and steadily, the robots in people will be taken out and replaced by the intelligence. So you've got intelligent workforce and robots working at the back. Together, it's a razor sharp combination.
Outstanding. That was beautifully and precision narrative. Gaurav, same question. Your what one big prediction or one big bet on the future of work, given the wide spectrum of technology and innovation that we have available to us today, and such that is going to come in the future.
Yeah, so I think the future belongs to creativity and innovation, right? And that, according to me, robots can't do on their own. That's where you need the humans. So let the humans innovate. Let the robots try and give you multiple avatars or simulations of the innovative, creative idea you have. Let's say you want to do a new car. The individual should be able to think and bring that into existence in a virtual world. Before he clicks a button and it converts into the true car that you really want, with all the parameters and everything working right at the end of the day. So it could be a car, it could be a plane, it could be a train, it could be a medicine tomorrow. But then the humans do the creative piece, where the robots do the heavy lifting.
Absolutely. Or it could be Iron Man. Uh, but that pretty much, gentlemen, is what we have time for. Gaurav, Unmesh, delighted. It's been nothing short of a privilege and fascinating speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arjun, for having us here.
Thank you, Arjun.
Thank you. And for the audience, you were seeing me, Arjun Vishwanathan, in conversation with Unmesh Deshpande and Gaurav Kataria in the Digital Dialogues episode 4. Stay tuned with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you, Arjun, for engaging our guests in an insightful panel discussion on their experiences with large-scale adoption of digital assistants and automation solutions in general. It was indeed encouraging to learn that personal digital assistants like AARI enable users to further simplify everyday tasks, improve collaboration between teams, and provide best-in-class customer service, both on-premise and in the cloud. It's a promising future indeed, now that every employee can participate in the automation economy from the device or application of their choice, to access data across multiple systems or manage complex escalation scenarios. These are very encouraging takeaways, I must say, not just for IT leaders, but for HR heads as well. Dear delegates, do remember to fill out the feedback form at the end of today's webinar episode. Your feedback is invaluable as it helps us improve the content, structure, and presentation of our webinars and virtual conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is a fireside chat with a senior executive from our partners, Automation Anywhere. In keeping with the theme of today's episode, Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer Strateging, will be engaging in conversation with Mr. Sumit Pathak, automation practitioner, thought leader, and evangelist at Automation Anywhere. In this chat, Mr. Vishwanathan will engage Mr. Pathak in a discussion on the key business benefits an organization can leverage by deploying personal digital assistants such as RE from the Automation Anywhere stable to perform routine tasks with ease and focus their time and skills on the soft, high-touch aspects of customer engagements.
Hello and welcome to the Digital Dialogue Season 3 and the last episode of the grand finale, where I am going to be joined in conversation with none other than Sumit Pathak, Digital Evangelist at Automation Anywhere. Sumit, welcome. Delighted that you could join us.
Thank you, Arjun, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Absolutely. Sumit, very interesting set of conversations that we have planned today. And, it's when you kind of observe the landscape or the shifting landscape of Indian industry today, of the Indian enterprise today, we also realize that digital assistants have kind of shifted the connectivity paradigm in recent years by perhaps changing the very way businesses interact with their customers, employers, employees, as well as suppliers. Now, in that kind of a shifting landscape of sorts, what, Sumit, in your view, is the importance or the criticality of digital assistants in shaping the future of work and the enterprise of tomorrow, really?
Interesting question, Arjun. And see, this question is getting the boundary between the work and home. And I'll give you a bit more convoluted answer and we'll come straight to the point as well. But I have to set the context for my answer first. See, as we are taking this call from home, right? I have got some digital assistant like Alexas of the world and Siris of the world and Bixby sorts, right? So those are the productivity tools which are available at my disposal, which is even used very fluently, very easily or regularly by my daughter, 6 years old. And it has become part of her life, right? If I'm unable to answer a question, she would, right? Which means that it is becoming part of our daily routine, right? Be it, organizing our personal life, doing certain activities like scheduling, getting answers to a few questions and the sorts. Now, as I said, we are working from home. There is digital assistant available at home. The same behavior than we expect to get out of the work which we are doing, right? It cannot be, it's called the neutrality of behavior, right? It cannot be that there is one set of behavior at in the other part of the house, and the second, as soon as I'm here wearing a jacket, then it's different, right? So how do you basically bridge that particular gap? And that's where digital assistant comes into picture from two sides, from employer side as well as from the customer side, right? Like as a customer, as I said, I'm a customer of this home digital assistant tools which I spoke about. Similarly, I would expect the same thing when I'm dealing with a bank or insurance companies or retail providers or any one of those, right? So how do I utilize these digital assistant to make it easier for me as a customer? That's one. And second, as a product company, how do I basically have it available for the organizations, for their employees, right? In doing so, creating more capacity for them, in doing so, helping them in doing their job better, more accurately, providing that collaboration, that force multiplier, that okay, some part of the activity while I'm dealing with the customer online can be taken care with the help of my digital assistant. So it's more of a support framework, to put in a very simple term, which is there to help you to do your job in much faster, easier, and accurately.
Interesting that you say that because, and I'm going to pick on a couple of words that you used. And I'm also increasingly looking at the word accurately. The question that also begs consideration really is, you see, you already have automation to a large degree, doing a fair share of manual tasks that are repetitive in nature. And the concept has always been about the convergence of technology and human capital to drive innovation and transformation. How, in your estimate, is automation anyway working in the digital assistant space to foster a higher level and sense of creativity and innovation?
See, I think it's there are two parts to it, right? One is basically looking at solving the problem for the customer and then supporting that with the technology, not the other way that you have technology and then you go for
You
it.
can't put technology at everything.
Yeah, exactly. Right? You can't force fit it, right? So we have, we have got 4,000 plus enterprise customers. We realize that, while the automation is there, there's still a lot of silos, Arjun, which is there in the entire value chain of the organization, the front office, middle office, and the back office. So, for example, if you take front office, we believe that while there is automation there in some parts of the organization, it doesn't provide that seamless experience to the customers and to the employees as well. And hence, we basically introduce a product called RE, which is Automation Anywhere Robotic Interface. What that does, if I can give you an example, from the employee's perspective, say, for example, I'm in a call center environment, I get a call from, so I'm an insurance setup, right? I get a call from a particular customer, and they're asking about the premium, about the other details on my policies, right? Now, while there's some part of the activity like premium calculation is automated, for me to have all of that available on the screen based on the conversation I'm having with the customer, right, is something what we are looking at or the customers are looking at, and that's where the innovation comes into picture. So to provide that very intuitive interface where your automation is beautifully presented, right, in a very intelligent wrapper, it connects all the dots in your value chain and present that to the employee in a particular manner so that it augments the capacity of the employee, plus also support the conversation they're having with the customer, right? And that's what we are looking from the digital assistant perspective. So in this case now, while I'm an employee, I received a call from the customer in a call center setup. I'm able to interact with the customer more, understand like, okay, premium calculation, what is that challenge you have? Do you want to add your spouse or your kids or anyone, right? So I will go and try to find the details. Now, that will take away my time having conversation, but if I can just quickly get the details with the help of a digital assistant in front of my, on the screen, the conversation becomes far more seamless and accurate because I'm not toggling, I'm not doing the second guess and things like that. Right? So that's where the innovation comes into picture. So build the intelligence behind in a way that you're able to have a conversation like how you would do with a with your team member. Can I get this information, please? Right. So it's like, but how do you do that with a machine, right? Unless you build an intelligence behind it.
So Sumit, that brings me to a interesting facet really of this entire journey, and I'm calling it a journey because, like we kind of discussed, it's not just about implement the technology, but it's also living and working with the technology to make us faster, to make enterprises smarter.
Hmm.
See, with RE, with the robotic interface, and with the whole concept of digital assistance, what clearly comes out is the fact that efficiency and productivity are clearly the metrics that are there to be seized as opportunities and potentials. But in your view, and given that you're in the thick of this developing the technology by itself as an evangelist at Automation Anywhere, what do you see, or where do you see this journey heading towards creating the employee of the future?
Very interesting. Very interesting. Right? So, see, when you start, first thing is, right, when you start embracing this change, Arjun, you basically start changing the fabric in the way the organization functions, right? So let's take the traditional right now situation, or let's take a step back, right? Because now digital workers are there, right? So it's a present situation. Let's take a scenario where previously I am a team leader, I have a team of 10, and there are certain ways my metrics is there, the certain way I measure and manage the performance of my team. And then comes the digital worker in the picture, right? Now things starts to change a bit because previously, while I have human workforce, now I also have digital workforce workers in the place, right? Now, so as a team leader, the role has changed for me because I need to still work on certain KPIs. I still need to basically report on certain parameters, right, of the business which I'm doing. But my expectations or the way the process will happen is changing now because I've got digital worker in place. I will have separate KPIs for them. At the same time, making sure those KPIs are in conjunction with the team KPI which I'm looking at. So my role has changed. I'm dealing with a human workforce and digital workforce. Now, if we move from that to digital assistance, right? So there is now combination of human and digital worker working together, collaboration, right? So as a staff right now, I have my KPIs are supported by my digital assistant as well, right? So that will change. For example, in a call center situation, if I take again, right? So if there was the number of the average handling time and for a particular call was say 5 minutes, right? So it will reduce to 3 minutes now because with the help of digital assistant, I'm able to be more efficient, right? Because of that, I'm able to take more calls. That means that my operational cost is decreasing. So as you see, your KPIs and your parameters are changing as you're working together with digital assistants. And that's what we see the future of the worker and the workforce will be more of a humans and bots working in collaboration.
So, mate, interesting that you mentioned the fact, and of course, you took the example of a call center where I think the use case is extremely logical and therefore relevant. Uh, from Automation Anywhere's perspective, the whole concept of RE, how do you see that translating to more industries, more sectors, and perhaps more tasks?
Yeah, yeah. See, the way I see the reason I took example of call center because that comes very it's more relatable for the audience, right? But RE is a technology, is an intelligent technology which works with your existing workforce, right? And that could be agnostic to any industry. Okay, because in the end, the fundamental, the premise or the genesis of RE is to make work far more easier for your staff, right? And how do you do that? By providing a very intuitive interface where all the bots which have been built, all the digital workforce, they come together. It's like Sutradhar, right? It will come together and it will present that in a far more simpler way with the steps on which steps have been taken, right? So it provides you with that particular view. So as you can appreciate, that technology is industry agnostic. It could be applied in financial sector, it could be applied in oil and gas, it could be applied in FMCG. Because in the end, Arjun, what we are trying to do is, increase the productivity of the staff, reduce the operational cost, maintain the business continuity, right? Like example, now we are working in a remote workforce environment, as we said. Imagine someone who is joining new in the organization, right? The learning curve would be challenging for that particular individual, right? Now, if I can provide that individual a digital assistant who can help in the steps while they are in the first or second or third month of their work, that will increase the productivity, as I said. It will reduce the error rate, right, and will the and provide better customer experience. So that is, yeah. For me, it's the work you're doing, and doesn't matter in which part of the industry you're in.
It also begs this question, really, Sumit, is from an enterprise landscape, and on behalf of this audience that's tuning in to us today, and for the larger enterprise sector, the employers, what is your prescription and even where to begin? Because as you're aware, the process is what is perhaps the most important in all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it starts with you, with every staff, with every the human workforce. Or let me put it this way, right? When we talk about scaling of automation, Arjun, and I'll get to your point. I'm just putting the context first. When we talk about scaling of automation, I think we talk in conjunction with democratization of automation, right? So when we say democratization, that it goes deep into the workspace of the individual, and we expect that individual to own it up, that this is something important for me because I want to do this my job better, and I also want to provide more value to the organization, and I can only do that if I'm able to take care of this new technology which will take away all the mundane activity with RPA, plus also help me to do in the value which I'm providing, right? So to your point, it starts with that particular staff, that particular employee, that they are embracing, they want that particular technology to help them to do their job. If there is a, and, with every new technology, it's always embraced with some sort of resistance, right? Which is quite natural. So what we have seen with our customers is that when you start small and grow big, it has a really snowballing effect, right? So you basically have a small project with, with minimum viable output, we call it, right? Try to solve a small business problem within a team, see how that's working, and then you will see that employees and the staff themselves become advocate of how good this technology is, and then you take it from there. In some cases, when we have seen that organizations trying to boil the ocean, go for the big bang, they have usually suffered because you don't see the actual output coming out of it, right? So I think it's start small, grow big, take one specific problem and then try to solve it. And start with your own set of problems. And last, one more thing, don't look at the most complex problem to solve, look at the most annoying problem which you have, so you can get rid of that, right? So, yeah.
Good point, but I must also ask you, therefore, from an Automation Anywhere perspective, how easy do you make it to for the staff, the worker, the employee, to kind of seamlessly plug and play into the robotic interface and continue to function as is without too much of a upheaval of sorts?
Yeah. So, okay, this is very interesting point. So, if I can wear my practitioner's ex-practitioner hat, right? Let's put it this way. When I started in the automation space somewhere in 2016, right, 15, 16, at that time, it was not as easy to build the bots. Let's put it this way: the technology was new, the concept was new. At the time, thinking of democratization was a big ask because RPA, not many people have heard about it. To bring that particular concept and then try to basically create that particular movement, right? That was the challenge. Since then, the technology has evolved considerably, right? It has it has become very intuitive. It has become very simple. We have got low code, no code tech, which basically now empowers the end user to build their own bots, right? It is drag and drop, right? It also provides them with some sort of a capability to learn how to make bots and feel good about it. So it's not about opening the bonnet and doing the coding, right? It's drag and drop. And new kids, the generation which is coming now, they are digitally native, right? They know their stuff really well. So that has also helped, right? So now looking at the technology like Automation Anywhere, bringing their fully integrated solution with very intuitive interface, low code, no code, plus with the digital native generation, I think it's a really handsome combination to have. And we have seen a huge uptake as a result of it. So they're not shying away from trying the new technology. As I said, they're used to having digital assistant around in their life, right? So it has become ubiquitous, right? Everywhere, if you see Alexa, Google, everyone is there. So they just become very comfortable with that particular experience, which they are not shying away to bring forth in their work as well. So keeping that in mind, making tech very simple, very intuitive, very easy to learn, helping with the various different courses we have, right? So there's automation anywhere, universities there where we help the staff to get up the curve pretty fast. I think right, really simple and good mix to bring in the culture here.
Standing, but I do have a view on the clock, Sumit.
Yeah.
We'll be back in the middle of the day, but it still allows me to sneak in a couple of questions. From Automation Universe perspective and your own, the vista or the spectrum of observation that you have in terms of industry, what are the innovations that we can expect with robotic interfaces as the months move on?
Yeah, I think as we say, the invention is basically based out of the necessity which we have. Necessity is the mother of invention, as we call it, right? So I think what we have seen now as a result of pandemic, right? A lot of organizations are looking at making their operations or organizations more resilient. So there's a lot of innovation that will come in that space, right? So how do we make our organization resilient? How do we make it more intuitive? How do I basically increase the productivity, do more with less, right? And we have seen that with our customers, there's a huge uptake as a result of from the cloud perspective, right? They know that there is cloud will help them to scale up, it will help them to reduce their operational cost, and they're looking at also the integrated solution. So, Arjun, as if you're a business head and if you have a problem to solve, you wouldn't want to have 5 different products helping you to solve that particular problem, right? Because it becomes a problem in itself, right? So that's where with Automation Anywhere, right from the discovery of the opportunity, right from the deployment with the help of the end user, right? So this golden triangle, that is what we are focusing on considerably, right? So how we empower the end user to identify the problems, take it all through the deployment, right? And then harness the power of cloud so they can do more processing is the combination which we are looking at. And that's where the organization is focusing at the moment.
Testing. And honestly, I think it's also important to understand from an enterprise perspective, really, is that the clamor for scale, agility, speed, the acceleration of transformation and business results is also obviously a natural outcome of, of this kind of an approach. But pretty much at the last question, this is going to be a little interesting. As an evangelist, when you kind of crystal ball gaze into the future, what is the trajectory? What is the journey for automation from an enterprise perspective, not just over the next 12 or 24 months, but in a longer space? How do you see automation, assistance, robotic interfaces working, converging with humans? Because we've got to be at the center of the universe for sure. How do you see that kind of playing out?
Yeah, so if I had that crystal ball, I would have seen not many new things as well as different things. But I think coming back to your point, the way I see it is that the vocabulary will change, and in a way that it won't be digital worker and human worker, right? It will be an intelligent workforce which will comprise of all of that. Having a digital assistant like Ari will become a second nature, and you would wonder, how the work used to get done without that, right? You'll be able to pack more things in a day and have less stress because machine is helping you, the intelligent machine is helping you to get that thing done, right? So I think if we have to predict with fingers crossed, from the way I see it is that this will completely amalgamate into each other, right? It will just become a second nature to use this assistance, and it will become far more intuitive and far more intelligent in terms of helping you to get your job done. So I believe that 80% of the or 60% of the work may get done even before you log in, because all the processing is getting done and you will spend more time in far more intelligent activity for which humans are designed. So I think we will find our human element back. We will rediscover it because the bots is taking care of the robotic part.
Fantastic. But I'm sure that's pretty much what we have time for. I know you've got a hard stop and a busy schedule ahead. Sumit, it's been nothing short of fascinating having this conversation with you, understanding the facets of how automation must be viewed. I'm sure the audience also takes back very, very poignant and pivotal messages on how they should commence and traverse this journey. But Sumit, thank you so much. Privileged to have had you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arjun. Always very, very energetic, and you always try to get the best question out, and sometimes challenging as well. So thanks a lot.
Lovely. Thank you so much. And for the audience, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment.
That was truly insightful. Thank you, Mr. Vishwanathan and Mr. Pathak, for your valuable views and guidance. Dear delegates, we now bring you a short animation summarizing today's webinar episode. Do please fill out the feedback form at the end of today's event. Here we go.
Digital assistants of tomorrow. How do intelligent personal digital assistants enrich employee experience? Personal digital assistants like Alexa, Cortana, Siri, and workforce digital assistants like AARI scale automation initiatives and improve outcomes by making it easy for any employee to participate in the automation of day-to-day business tasks through business-friendly natural language user interfaces. How do digital assistants enhance enterprise workforce productivity? Intelligent Business Digital Assistants AARI enable users to further simplify everyday tasks, improve collaboration between intra and interdepartmental teams, and provide best-in-class customer service, both for traditional on-premise and for digitally enabled over-the-cloud moments of truth. How does automation with digital assistants accelerate and strengthen an organization's digital transformation journey? Every employee can participate in the value creation from the device or application of their choice by accessing data across multiple systems, tracking multiple tasks, working around interruptions, and managing complex escalation scenarios. Automating back-office processes that involve tedious, repetitive, manual tasks helps to realize cost savings and better outcomes on both customer SLAs and business metrics like cash flow. That's all, folks. Stay tuned for our next season of Digital Dialogues on another exciting new technology that is transforming workplaces, workforces, and the customer experience.
That was indeed a comprehensive overview of the benefits organizations can expect to derive by deploying personal digital assistants at scale across the workforce. Dear delegates, that's all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed the 4 episodes of Strateging's Digital Dialogue Season 3 on robotic process automation that we brought you in association with our partner, Automation Anywhere, a global leader in RPA solutions. Please do take a minute to fill out and submit your feedback form. On behalf of Strateging and Automation Anywhere, we thank you for attending and our panelists and speakers for enriching us with their experiences and expert insights. Take care, stay safe, and may RE ease your employees' automation journey and empower your workforce of tomorrow. This is Ushma Tyagi signing off on behalf of Strateging Solutions.